What does a deaf, crippled girl in a pathetic attic know about royal acoustic heritage? The greedy regional director slammed his heavy fist onto the wooden table. He leaned in close to Mary's tear-stained face. You will sign over the patent for these wooden piano keys. Right now. If you refuse, I will personally see to it that your blind father rots in a prison cell for stealing company supplies. Outside the shattered window, a violent blizzard howled through the freezing night. Mary shivered and sobbed helplessly in the corner of the room. She wrapped her scarred arms around the unfinished oak piano keys. She blew warm breath onto the wood, desperately trying to protect her only hope. She couldn't perfectly hear the director's vicious threats because of her impaired hearing, but she could easily read the pure malice twisting his ugly lips. Just a few feet away, hidden in the dim shadows of the attic, stood a single father. He was gently holding the hand of his little girl. He didn't shout at the director. He didn't rush forward to throw a punch. Instead, he calmly stepped into the dim light of the fireplace. He quietly placed a solid black metal card onto the table. Right next to it, he dropped a thick, confidential Geneva audit file. Hello everyone. True music doesn't echo from arrogant, empty words. It is woven from the holy voice of faith, filial piety, and sheer courage. If you believe in the goodness of this world, please leave a prayer in the comments below. Type, Lord, I pray that you light up my compassion to guide me in weaving a melody of perfect happiness. And please subscribe to the channel right now to see how this beautiful journey unfolds. Let's go back a few months to understand how Mary ended up in this brutal situation. Mary lived a life defined by silence and sawdust. Since childhood, she suffered from a severe hearing impairment. The world was just a muffled hum to her delicate ears. But she didn't let the silence break her beautiful spirit. She spent her days and nights meticulously carving raw wood. She worked exclusively with thousand-year-old oak that she salvaged from scrap piles. She carefully dried the wood, using the faint heat of a rusty, broken fireplace in her attic. Her hands were heavily calloused, covered in tiny cuts and deep scars. But her touch was incredibly gentle and precise. She had one single, desperate goal in her difficult life. She needed to save enough money for a specialized medical surgery. Her elderly father had been severely injured in a tragic logging accident many years ago. The horrific accident at the timber yard had left him completely blind and profoundly deaf. He lived in total darkness and total silence, trapped in his own mind. Mary desperately wanted to give him his hearing back. She wanted him to hear her voice, just one more time, before his time was up. So, she carved day and night, without rest. Every single day, she shaped these beautiful raw piano keys. She firmly believed that the oak wood had a living soul. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in a world of extreme wealth, Eric was living his own personal nightmare. Eric was a self-made billionaire. He owned a massive global conglomerate of hearing aid technologies. He was also the primary benefactor of the prestigious Swiss Royal Acoustic Museum. He had enough money to buy anything in the world, but his endless wealth was completely useless. When it came to his only daughter, his little girl had suffered a severe psychological trauma. After tragically losing her mother, she had stopped speaking completely. She fell into a deep, unresponsive depression that terrified her father. World-renowned doctors, specialists, and expensive therapists all failed to help her. They told Eric that her mind had simply shut down out of grief. Desperate and heartbroken, Eric packed a simple bag and took his daughter on a long journey. He dressed in plain, worn-out clothes to hide his immense wealth. He wanted to escape the suffocating pressure of his corporate life. He was actively searching for natural, wild acoustic frequencies. He prayed that something pure and unmanufactured might finally wake his daughter's sleeping mind. Their endless wandering eventually led them to a small, freezing mountain town. It was the exact same isolated town where Mary lived. One freezing evening, as the bitter cold wind bit through their thin coats, Eric and his daughter walked past a rundown apartment building. From the drafty attic above, a strange, rhythmic sound echoed down to the snowy street. It wasn't a standard musical melody. It was the soft, resonant tapping of a wooden mallet against cured oak. The sound was incredibly warm, raw, and earthy. Eric suddenly felt his daughter's tiny hand twitch in his firm grip. He looked down in absolute shock. For the first time in 2 miserable years, the little girl was looking up with wide, curious eyes. She pulled on his hand, actively leading him toward the rickety wooden stairs. They slowly climbed up to the freezing attic. Eric gently pushed the creaky door open. Inside, they saw Mary sitting alone by the dying fire. She was focused on testing the pitch of a freshly carved wooden key. She didn't hear them enter the room. Eric's daughter slowly walked across the dusty wooden floor. She reached out her tiny, trembling hand toward the workbench. She gently touched the wooden key, resting in Mary's lap. Mary gasped in surprise and looked up. She immediately saw the deep sadness in the little girl's eyes. Without asking a single question, Mary smiled warmly. It was a beautiful smile, of pure maternal warmth and deep understanding. She gently placed her wooden mallet into the little girl's hand. She softly guided the child's fingers to strike the oak key. A deep, beautiful hum vibrated powerfully through the cold air. The little girl's face completely lit up. A bright, genuine smile finally broke across her pale face. Eric stood frozen in the doorway, tears streaming down his tired face. He knew instantly that this poor, hearing-impaired woodworker had just saved his daughter's life. The natural frequency of the wood, combined with Mary's pure soul, had finally unlocked the child's mind. Mary truly is an angel in disguise. If you can feel the warmth of Mary's sacrifice, please take a moment to leave a comment. Type, "Lord, I pray that you light up my compassion to guide me in weaving a melody of perfect happiness." Sadly, pure talent always attracts human greed. Mary regularly sold her small wood pieces to a large local instrument manufacturer just to buy enough bread to survive. The regional purchasing director of that powerful company was a ruthless, greedy, and arrogant man. He had secretly taken one of Mary's handmade keys to a high-tech acoustic lab for testing. The laboratory results were absolutely staggering. The tonal quality of her wood was far superior to the finest grand pianos used by European royalty. The corrupt director knew this unique patent was easily worth tens of millions of dollars. He wanted all the glory, the promotions, and the massive payouts for himself. He fully knew that Mary was poor, disabled, and utterly desperate to save her father. So, he formulated a wicked, heartless plan to steal her life's work. He secretly fabricated fake inventory logs in the company's computer system. He officially accused Mary's blind father of stealing premium wood from the company's private warehouse. He threatened to hand the fake, damning evidence over to the local police. Unless, of course, Mary signed a legal contract transferring all rights of her crafting technique directly to him. He cornered her in her attic, right as a massive, blinding blizzard hit the mountain town. He brought the predatory contract and a cheap pen. He loudly demanded she sign her entire life away. He viciously insulted her physical disability. He cruelly mocked her father's tragic blindness. He thought he had absolute, unchecked power over this helpless, broken family. He had absolutely no idea that the quiet, poorly dressed man standing in the corner of the room was his ultimate boss. Eric had been staying in the attic, silently observing every single second of this cruel extortion. The regional director spun around, his ugly face twisted in pure, unadulterated rage. He opened his mouth to scream at the sudden, unwanted interruption, but the harsh words violently died in his throat. The moment he looked down, his greedy, widening eyes locked onto the solid black metal card resting on the dusty wooden table. It wasn't just any premium credit card belonging to a wealthy tourist. It bore the exclusive, heavily guarded solid gold crest of the Swiss Royal Acoustic Museum. Right next to it, the thick Geneva audit file sat like a ticking time bomb, sealed with a highly classified red stamp. The director's face turned completely ashen, drained of all its arrogant blood. His cruel, dominating posture vanished in a single, terrifying second. He slowly looked up, his whole body trembling, as he finally recognized the quiet, poorly dressed man standing before him. It was Eric, the supreme chairman and majority owner of the entire global acoustic conglomerate. It was the legendary, elusive billionaire who held absolute, unchecked power over his entire career and his very freedom. "Mr. Chairman," the director stammered, his knees violently shaking as sweat poured down his freezing face. "I had no idea you were in this town. I was simply securing a highly profitable, revolutionary patent for our great company. This deaf girl doesn't understand the complex business world, so I was helping her out." Eric didn't shout. He didn't curse. And he didn't raise his voice. His tone was dangerously calm, low, and freezing, much colder and more unforgiving than the violent blizzard howling outside the shattered window. "You are fired. Effective immediately." Eric stepped forward and tapped the thick audit file with his index finger. "I have been personally tracking your fake inventory logs and your disgusting embezzlement network for 3 solid months. You thought you were a genius for stealing millions from the corporate accounts, but attempting to extort a disabled woman and falsely accuse a blind elder in the middle of the night? That is a special kind of evil. You won't just lose your lucrative job and your luxury cars tonight. You are going to federal prison for a very, very long time." The regional director's legs completely gave out, and he collapsed heavily to the dusty floorboards. He sobbed uncontrollably, begging frantically for mercy, aggressively offering to give all the stolen money back. He even tried to crawl toward Mary to beg for her forgiveness, crying like a pathetic child. But Eric simply pulled out his satellite phone and made a brief 10-second call to his private security team. Within minutes, local authorities and heavily armed corporate security arrived at the attic. They completely ignored the director's pathetic screams and violently dragged him out into the freezing, blinding blizzard. His reign of corporate terror and cruelty was permanently over. The horrific storm of extortion had finally passed. The quiet, rustic attic was peaceful once again, filled only with the crackle of the dying fireplace. Eric slowly turned around and walked over to where Mary was sitting on the floor, holding her wooden keys. He didn't look at her with pity, superiority, or the cold calculation of a businessman. Instead, the billionaire gently knelt on the dusty floor, bringing himself down to her exact eye level. He raised his hands and used beautiful, flawless, and deeply respectful sign language. "Thank you for saving my little girl's soul tonight," he signed carefully, his eyes filled with unshed tears. "Her mind was trapped in darkness, and your pure heart, your music, brought her back to the light. You gave me my daughter back. Now, please allow me the absolute honor of helping to heal your broken family." Eric formally promised to completely fund the $2 million experimental surgery for her blind and deaf father. He promised to fly the absolute best neurosurgeons in the world to their small town. But Eric didn't just want her to work for his global company as a master artisan. Looking deeply into her resilient, incredibly kind, and beautiful eyes, Eric realized something profound. He realized he had finally found the missing, warm piece of his own broken, grieving heart. He gently reached out, held her calloused, scarred hands, and asked if she would allow him to protect her forever. With tears in his eyes, he asked this incredible woman to be his wife. Mary burst into tears, completely overwhelmed by this sudden, beautiful miracle orchestrated by fate. Eric has woven a bright, warm future to protect Mary's incredible filial piety and sheer courage. If you can feel the absolute joy and relief of this miraculous moment, please leave a prayer in the comments below. Type, "Lord, I pray that you light up my compassion to guide me in weaving a melody of perfect happiness." 6 months later, a breathtakingly beautiful and intimate engagement ceremony was held at the Royal Acoustic Museum. The grand, majestic hall was filled with the warm, rich, and earthy sound of an oak piano. It was a one-of-a-kind grand piano, custom-built by Eric's engineers, using the very keys Mary had meticulously carved in that freezing attic. Mary looked absolutely stunning in an elegant white dress, holding Eric's strong hand tightly. Beside her stood Eric's daughter, wearing a beautiful floral dress, smiling brightly and laughing, no longer trapped in a world of silence. But the absolute most beautiful, heartbreakingly pure moment was yet to come. Sitting in the front row of the audience was Mary's elderly father. His eyes were still blind, but he wore a small, highly advanced technological cochlear implant, resting gently behind his ear. As Mary stepped up to the piano and played a gentle, flowing chord on the wooden keys, her father suddenly gasped loudly. His whole body froze, and he slowly tilted his head toward the stage. He slowly nodded his head, heavy tears streaming down his wrinkled, weathered face. For the first time in over a long, agonizing decade, he could clearly hear the beautiful music, created by his daughter's loving, tireless hands. He could hear the undeniable sound of his family's absolute, well-deserved happiness. The moment Mary saw her father's emotional reaction, she broke down in tears of pure, unfiltered joy, right there on the stage. This is the true, undeniable power of a kind heart and unwavering faith. If this beautiful, emotional moment touched your soul today, please leave a comment to share the love. Type, "Lord, I pray that you light up my compassion to guide me in weaving a melody of perfect happiness. When the cruel world tries to turn off your sound and leave you in the dark, God will always compensate you. He will bless you with a vast sky full of warm sunshine. He will bless you with the most wonderful, loving melodies of destiny you could ever imagine. Never lose your faith in the genuine goodness of your own heart. Please subscribe to the channel right now to warm your heart with these stories every single day. And please don't forget to comment. Lord, I pray that you light up my compassion to guide me in weaving a melody of perfect happiness. Thank you so much for watching, and may your life always be filled with beautiful music.